I've seen a lot of videos online recently about Caitlyn as a kid or what she thought of when she became dictator, etc. So today I figured why not just understand who Caitlyn is? Why not dive deep into who she is as a person and why she is the way she is? Let's begin and understand who Caitlyn Kierman is. In the first 3 episodes, we do get Caitlyn as a child. It is so important to understand who she was and what she was interested in. Season 1 helped us understand this perfectly. Caitlyn was first introduced as a 16-year-old, so a teenager and my classmate. It also helped so much that the person she was hanging out with a lot was Jace, her older brother figure and a smart guy. This is something that will help you understand who Caitlyn was as a teen because Jace and his intelligence and more so science approach plays a sort of huge part in it. Now, we don't actually get more than like 4 scenes with Caitlyn in it, but it sets up a lot for us to understand. One thing that we can see off the bat is that Caitlyn is scared of Zahn. She even mentions it to Jace in the first scene. Is this a bad thing? No. Just because O Block has good people in it, and I do feel bad for them because of the systematic racism, I am not walking through that block. I'm finding a car and hitting the highway beside it. However, it is nice to see Caitlyn is curious. She does not just insult the place or scold Jace, but rather question if it was worth it. It shows that she has a deeper understanding of the systematic destruction of Zahn and that it isn't all horrible, filled with just horrible people. We can understand young Caitlyn felt bad for what her people did and thus sort of feared that Jace might have been hurt because of that. This is further proven through her mother, Cassandra. As we learn in Season 2, Cassandra is a definitely left-wing politician, interested in peace and growing both Zahn and Piltover. As we know, she was responsible for the better ventilation system Zahn has. This ties into the next thing we can understand about Caitlyn as a teen. Caitlyn believes in second chances and understanding the reasons. For example, she defends Jace every step of the way because she knows he was robbed. Yeah, everyone knew that. But how many people did you see defend him? I saw one person and that was Caitlyn. Her mother's influence of peace and understanding and growing together is a big reason as to why Caitlyn is so understanding of everything. She listens and learns. She appreciates and doesn't hate. Young Caitlyn isn't your average spoiled brat, but rather someone who appreciates their position in society and someone who is willing to use their power for the better of society. I think as I conclude young Caitlyn, we can understand that she is a left-wing, peace-offering, curious teenager who sneaks girls into her room as we see her mom not be surprised when Vi is there. Young Caitlyn is someone who appreciates their power in society and wants to use that to help the rest of the world, sort of like a nicer Luigi, free my boy. Overall, young Caitlyn is a person of peace and curiosity, a person who struggles with their own issues and identity just like every other teenager. Pre-attack is Caitlyn from Season 1, before her mom dies. Caitlyn is different now. About 7 years later and a job as an enforcer, Caitlyn no longer looks at life with the question why. She now understands reality and is still a little scared of Zahn, which is understandable because she lacks the experience needed. One thing from the start we can see is that she is always being held back. She has the capabilities to be a great enforcer and we see her detective skills that could genuinely help the nation in a big way. But her mom and Marcus, which is Silco's basically pet, holds her back. This ruins her relationship with Cassandra in a big way and essentially causes Caitlyn to not be as politically involved as I believe she was at one point. I also believe her becoming an enforcer means she is more grounded on reality and strays from the dreaming mindset her mother once gave her. This comes in handy when looking at why she makes the decisions she does later on. As we see her talk with Vi in episode 5, we can see a glimpse of her sexuality peek out, as there is no doubt Caitlyn felt at least a little bit of an attraction towards Vi. This is not something that is a huge deal, but definitely tells us that she has now formed an identity. She is Caitlyn, the kind, the brave, and the willing to do the right thing. However, in the same conversation, we understand she is still too naive, not yet understanding the reality of how the world works, and this comes from her always being held back. See, Caitlyn not given the right opportunities to grow as an enforcer or politician, etc., makes her judge and think with emotional factors involved. We see this a lot in the prison scene as she releases Vi and trusts a prisoner who hasn't given much of anything so far. This is solely the work of Kate's emotions, and that's completely fine. One last thing we can understand about Caitlyn before the next segment is that she still loves Piltover. She loves her job as an enforcer and hates hearing about the truth that her people have caused. Vi telling her that enforcers are evil probably played a small factor in Caitlyn releasing her, as a way to prove to the world that she isn't the one in the wrong. Another thing we see a lot of. Caitlyn's ego, essentially, is what I mean. Overall, before meeting Vi, Caitlyn is now a grown adult, a person with their own identity, still naive and lacking proper judgment, but nonetheless a determination to do the right thing and prove to the world she isn't like the rest and actually cares about making a difference. She is an adult with a pride for her nation and pride for her job and her hard work, hating people that undermine her efforts. Or Vi was probably the greatest thing that happened to Caitlyn. Vi was basically a revolution to everything Caitlyn thought was right or wrong. See, up until Vi, Caitlyn has been a naive and good person, but still influenced by her family pride and the power of enforcers. Of course, she understands that people of Zaun hate her kind, but Vi is the first experience of the real world for Caitlyn. Vi is the first time Caitlyn gets the required experience to grow as a person and develop a proper mindset. So you could say without Vi, Caitlyn would be your average rich girl who really wants to make a change but doesn't know a single thing about it. Take this scene for example. Caitlyn is frustrated with Vi for her blaming every problem on enforcers and the topsiders, but at the same time understands Vi's perspective because she has traveled so much already with her. Caitlyn seeing the tents and the bar and the poverty, shimmer addiction is all a lot of stuff that arguably someone should not see. But Vi leading Caitlyn through this is a sort of a way for Caitlyn to understand what Zaun is really like. Because as an enforcer, she has only ever heard of the negatives and the crime and the shimmer. Take this moment for example, where she asks why someone would take a drug. She doesn't understand the basic emotions of people. She doesn't understand what her position is in the real world. See, while as a kid, she did appreciate her position in society, and I'm sure she still does, Caitlyn needed this moment with the shimmer addict to understand that she could have very well become an addict herself. She knows she also craves respect. She knows that she relates to the stranger, and yet life takes a different route because she is from a respected household, clean area, and Piltover. Another way we can understand Caitlyn now that she has met Vi is as someone who understands Vi. I know that sounds confusing, but listen to me for a bit. We know Caitlyn has already formed a bit of connection to Vi, if not a lot, because we see her save Vi, trade her family gun for it, literally the symbolization of Kate trading her pride for the safety of Vi. We know that she trusts Vi now because she was good enough to do what she was released to do. However, Caitlyn is still surprised and genuinely pained when she understands that her people, enforcers, are the reason Vi is an orphan. Imagine knowing the person you love is the way they are because of your people, and you have supported your people this entire time. And sure, it wasn't Caitlyn's fault, but we can see it changes her view on the world. She finally understands her own mother. She understands why Zaun is so hurt, because for every Vi, there are thousands who couldn't get the chance to prove they were good people before Piltover destroyed them. She understands capitalism and her impact on society. This change is beautiful and makes me love Caitlyn's growth and character at this moment. It makes us relate to Caitlyn because we all feel bad for Vi together. The last thing I want you to focus on is Vi talking to Echo. This is the first and last time they ever talk, but man, it is so important to understand Caitlyn. Why? Because it summarizes this entire segment. Caitlyn shows that she now understands what her own mother stood for. Peace. She understands that enforcers and Piltover have destroyed Zaun and caused both Jinx and Vi. Two sides of a coin, but the same creator. Caitlyn shows that she now knows the cycle of violence her own mother has tried to stop. The cycle of repeated blaming and fighting. In the end, meeting Vi and her growth because of it helps us understand Caitlyn as someone who is now experienced. Someone who has a strong identity and a purpose. Someone willing to help with their power and change the social class pain. Someone who knows right and wrong, not because of influence, but rather because of experience. Someone who, while not part of the problem, accepts their own lack of part in the solution. I love Caitlyn after she met Vi. I love who Caitlyn is at this moment because I feel even though she isn't perfect, she is willing to try. Sometimes that's all that matters. This small segment will essentially end Season 1 and start Season 2 for us. It will help us understand how Caitlyn thinks and what she really desires in this world. Starting off, we understand Caitlyn's true feelings for Vi. We understand that while she is becoming a good person, a genuine helping hand, she is also doing it for Vi, which isn't wrong at all, but does make a huge difference if, for example, Vi ever fights with her. Then she loses her purpose to help. We see this right here, where Caitlyn just gives up. We don't see her fight for Vi or for Zaun or confront her mother again, but rather just accept what happened. It is the first sign that Caitlyn still doesn't really care for the people of Zaun, and she doesn't have to. But it definitely makes sense why people consider her a wrong character in many ways. Another thing we can understand about Caitlyn at this moment is that she is too in love with Vi. She knows that the best thing she can do is kill Jinx, and then shoot Silco. Zaun would be savable, would appreciate that, and yet she hesitates. She rethinks everything for Vi. This love and connection that she has built over the last segment ends up hurting her growth and helping Zaun. She could have saved Zaun, literally destroying the virus, but her love screwed her. Another example of Caitlyn's emotional factor outweighing her realistic factor. Let's move into Season 2 now. The attack is done and Caitlyn's mother is dead. I want to focus on this because I've seen so many people hate Caitlyn for her reaction. You have to understand a few things to understand Caitlyn at this moment. Just because someone comes from a rich household does not mean the loss of their mother is less significant, especially if that person cared for the average social class and was raised by a mother that was present in their life. Caitlyn just lost a person who guided her in the right path. Remember, Cassandra is the reason for Zaun being able to breathe. Her political view is the reason Caitlyn isn't some spoiled brat. Even outside of Cassandra's impact, though, that is still a mother dying. If I was Caitlyn, I would probably be worse. 2. All of Zaun sticks up for one another. We see this in Act 1 of Season 1, and we see it again. No one does anything to help Piltover. If it was as easy as just asking them to return Jinx for peace, they would do it. But sadly, all of Zaun refuses to talk. And I understand that they should refuse. One person dying isn't even close to how many die in Zaun. However, you have to see it from Caitlyn's perspective. She believes Jinx is being protected and doesn't understand why. For her, Cassandra is more important to Zaun than Jinx, and that is why she attacks Zaun, because she feels they betrayed her mother's legacy. 3. Vi fuels her anger. It is so easy to see that Caitlyn has known she was in the wrong, nearly every time. She has known she's doing the wrong thing. I even made a video on this. Go check it out. But every time Vi fuels her anger, Vi supports her. Vi lets her believe Zaun is okay with this. Remember, Caitlyn believes Zaun can be represented by Vi. And if Vi supports every action like she did, Caitlyn is only going to get worse. And so with these 3 important factors to Caitlyn's reaction after the attack, I hope you all understand that she was practically justified in her actions. Life isn't simple and it isn't black or white. Caitlyn made the mistake of being emotional once by letting Jinx go. She isn't going to let that happen again, and I completely understand her for it. Now this is the most controversial segment of the entire video. See, when Caitlyn led her squad, they controlled where they attacked. They made sure casualties were an absolute 0, and I believe that Kate did try her best at that. But over the 3 months after the attack, Caitlyn changed in a huge way. And I want you to understand that she was wrong. There is no need for you to try and justify this part of her life. To understand Caitlyn's actions in the few months she was dictator until she met Vi again, is to compare her to a similar character, Darth Vader. Both Vader and Caitlyn knew that they were in the wrong. Kate knows she is equal to Jinx and Silco and every other criminal. I went over this in 2 different Arcane videos in the description. But the reason she is like Vader is because both of them have no purpose other than evil. They both lack purpose now. Both lost their loved ones and both have only an evil dictator beside them. This means that both of them have no purpose to accomplish other than to keep committing evil for the dictator. Does this mean Vader and Kate both get a decent ending? Well, no. Caitlyn got a heroic ending even though she doesn't deserve it. However, you need to understand that for one, she had nothing to do with 90% of the violence during those few months. That was all Mbessa. Kate simply approved it all because she didn't care anymore. Her only purpose was Vi, and as far as she knows, that purpose could be dead. And so you need to understand that Caitlyn post-attack knew she was evil. She knew she was being manipulated, and she knew that she should be hated. As I end with the final segment, current Caitlyn, I want you to understand something. Caitlyn does not believe that her heroic actions change the pain she has caused. We see this in the council as she gives up her spot to Savika, trying to make amends with Zahn and realizing she doesn't deserve to be in charge anymore. Caitlyn at this point accepts she doesn't deserve love from everyone, but she only cares about one anyways, and that one, being Vi, has forgiven her. So let's go back and think. Do we understand Caitlyn now? Do we understand how Vi changed her? How the death of her mother justified her mind? How Vi and Mbessa are to blame, partially for Kate's actions? Overall, Arcane does not make Caitlyn a good person. Arcane simply shows you that there are always reasons to everything, and you just have to understand them.